My name is Rebecca Montrone. I have a business here, a practice here in Keene called Wondrous Roots. And I am a holistic healthcare practitioner certified through the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. I have a degree in holistic nutrition, and I am also an herbalist. So I like to make herbal things come from, that's kind of my compounding pharmacy bent. And so not only do I counsel, I spend a great deal of my time here in the office counseling clients for their health problems, which may involve herbs or may not. But then I do spend time formulating things and when in herbal things as well. And so you guys who are with me for a long time, you know all of that. So anyway, we are located on the third floor of the Miller Forge building here in Keene, New Hampshire, on Roxbury Street. Roxbury Street is one of the main tributaries off Central Square in downtown Keene. And we have free parking. We have lots of it. We have handicap access. We have elevator, whatever. So our normal business hours are 9:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. Those are the hours when you can come in and pop up and our doors open. We have a lot of, we have a real shop with nutritional supplements and things that I make and all of that kind of thing. And you can also reach out to me, 603-439-2603, or wondrousroots.org, go to the contact us, or shopwondrousroots.com, go to the contact us, or email me, and you can reach me. And if you want to talk about talk with me, or if you want to talk about setting up an appointment. I see clients for all kinds of health problems. I see clients of all ages, and I see clients all over locally and also this way, long distance as needed. So I think that's it. I think that's it for intro stuff. Last week, I'm really kind of excited about this program. I love you class attendees because you guys are always with me, like almost every single Saturday. All of you are here. We have a good group, and you're obviously interested in the deep stuff, the stuff, and you out there listening to later, I'm not disparaging that, but I'm just saying, I don't talk about kind of the real fluffy in the news health material most of the time. I really talk like I'm talking to colleagues at a conference. I'm talking like I'm teaching a class of people who do what I do. And that doesn't always resound with the general public. So obviously, if you're with me, you are interested in these things as I am. And I think that I would say is my greatest passion in the work I do, even one-on-one, especially one-on-one, is empowering with education, with information. Because when you have that information, you can run with it. You don't become dependent on somebody like me. You become more aware, and you're like, oh yeah. And then you go researching on your own, and you find other places to find research, like Debbie, who's with us, who, when I was talking about MTHFR, she had read this whole book, Dirty Genes, and she had really researched that for her and her child. And so it's that kind of thing where we're all kind of teaching one another and learning together. And, I think that that's just really super wonderful and very important. So this is why I love doing this on Saturday. This is really it. So last week talked about calcium and death by calcium. And I talked about, here is this book still on my desk. There we go. And I got a good comment from somebody who views my things later on YouTube. And he mentioned, that you can go, there can be that imbalance, now is calcium bad? And he gave me a couple of great articles and an article by this Ray Peat, who is a health, he's a doctor. I really like to follow his stuff. And calcium is super important. And Ray Peat made a very good point that you have to get adequate calcium in your diet for it to be balanced in your body. So this dude, this Dr. Thomas E. Levy, MD, JD, he he says basically avoid calcium in the diet. And when you look at other things and you look at balance, excuse me, No, you don't. And that makes all the sense in the world, right? Why would you exclude a certain nutrient from a food group? And why would you villainize calcium? It's all about everything in balance. And that's what we know about diet. That's what we know about health. That's what we know about lifestyle. Things have to be in balance. And so in balance, not imbalance. So very, very important. And I think I'm going to go just quickly to, I'm not going to share my screen because I'm just going to be reading like a paragraph, but I saved one of these. Let's see here. The repeat. Oh, come on. It's kind of, this is just one of those technical snafus. It's like, you know, Microsoft wants to protect me from the fact that I'm trying to open a link that was in a document that I put in there, and now it's not letting me copy it. Okay, let's just forget that. No, let's not. Hang on. I can just do it this way. Repeat, not repeat, but repeat, PEAT, calcium. And I know I'll find it. Okay. Yeah. He says, in biology and biochemistry, calcium is a substance most often studied, so it is significant that researchers still speak of a calcium paradox. So that's kind of like things seem contradictory, like you need it, but it's bad. It's good, but it's bad. There are several such paradoxes. As bones lose calcium, the soft tissues calcify. When less calcium is eaten, blood calcium may increase along with calcium in many organs and tissues. If an organ such as a heart is deprived of calcium, if an organ such as the heart is deprived of calcium for a short time, its cells lose their ability to respond normally to calcium, and instead they take up a large toxic amount of calcium. Magnesium deficiency and calcium deficiency have some similar symptoms, such as cramping, but magnesium is antagonistic to calcium in many systems. It is a basic protective calcium blocker. Inflammation leads to excessive uptake of calcium by cells and is a factor in obesity, depression, and degenerative diseases. Protein deficiency is an important cause of deranged calcium metabolism. Vitamins K, E, and A are important in regulating calcium metabolism, preventing osteoporosis. So we have that balance there, which is important to always keep in mind. And one of the things that I'm going to, if I get back to my screen here, yes. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today is hyperparathyroidism. And before you change the channel, you are going to find this fascinating. And you're going to find it, perhaps your brain's going to be going, no, maybe not about yourself. I'm not saying about yourself, but maybe about somebody in your family or somebody you know, or a friend who says, I have all these health problems and nobody can seem to get to the root of them. And so pay attention. This is really fascinating. And I learned about it. I'll tell you how I learned about it. So Mary, who is my dad's widow. So my mother died early of Alzheimer's disease and my father remarried. And Mary is only 7 years older than I am. And she works here. She's one of my wonderful assistants here at Wondrous. And one of my very dearest friends, of course. But Mary's had a thyroid condition for many, many years. And she sees as her primary care, she sees a naturopath here in the area, Ruth Galbraith. I can say that because I have anything but good to say about Ruth. And Ruth spotted things in Mary's lab work, this was several years ago, that made her wonder about hyperparathyroidism. Now, the thyroid and the parathyroid glands, they're not the same. They're just located near each other. So para in Spanish means near, around. And so around the thyroid gland. And so the parathyroid glands are on the thyroid. They're about the size, there's 4 of them. They're about the size of a grain of rice. And they attach to the thyroid gland on either side. I'll show you a diagram in a moment. And you have my newsletter, but anyway, I'll show it to you. So maybe I'll just do that now. Let's see. Get that. And I know I have my newsletter up, so I will just share my screen. Where am I? Where are you? Zoom. There I am. Okay. Share. All right, now I just want to go ahead and make sure I get my, okay. My participants there, my chat. So if you guys have something else to warn me about or to participate, oh, that's the other thing. Excuse me. If you want to talk with me, please do. So all you have to do is you can go to the chat like many of you just did. You can go to the chat and, all right. Wow, I'm just having such, okay. And where's my chat? Okay, there we go. Okay, you go to the chat like you guys did and you said, we can't hear you. Okay, you can type, or you can go to the Q&A, you can do that. Or you can go to, you can raise your hand and then I'll call on you and then we'll talk like this, like I'm talking with a voice. Okay, so here you see the parathyroid glands right there. And here in this thing right here, diagram. So here's where they're located. So they, the parathyroid glands control, anyway, okay, they control, I'll read this and I'll get back to Mary. Parathyroid glands control the amount of calcium in our blood. Everyone has 4 parathyroid glands, usually located right around the thyroid gland at the base of the neck. About 1 in 100 people, that's quite a few people, 1 in 100. It's not like 1 in a million or 1 in 10,000 or 1,000 even. 1 in 50 women over 50 years old. Once you get to be, you're a woman, lucky you, and you're over 50. Well, you are, that's good. You're still with us. Yeah, that's not old, but over 50, you are now 1 in 50. You have more of a likelihood of developing a tumor on your parathyroid gland, causing a disease called hyperparathyroidism. Hyperparathyroidism is a destructive disease that causes high blood calcium, which can lead to serious health problems. It can be cured by surgically removing the parathyroid tumor, and that's the only way it can be treated. So I've had several that have worked with me who have gone down like Mary did to Tampa and had this surgery. It's very simple surgery. It's very intricate, but this, anyway, I'll tell you more about that. But that's what you have to do. But you have to know you have it. Right? You have to know you have this problem, and it very often goes missing in diagnosis. So very important, and it's important for you to know for yourself, but it's really important for you to know too when people are talking to you about their health problems. You might say, you know, have you checked into this? So anyway, hyperparathyroid is not just an abnormal blood calcium that can be monitored by your doctors. It's a serious disease that must be treated. And when we say it's a serious disease that must be treated, it's not like a constellation. It results in a lot of different symptoms, but the disease is the tumor. And you developed a tumor that needs to be removed. So anyway, let me, this is fantastic. I'm going to be referring to this. You're going to want to go back to this. I would say probably when you have time later, because especially if you think that this applies to you or someone you know, because it is fantastic. So this is the Norman Parathyroid Center down in Tampa, Florida. People come from all over the world to deal with this problem, and it is the one place in this country that I would recommend people go to. And this is where Dr. Ruth Galbraith recommended Mary go when she suspected, based on her blood work, that she had something going on there. And so Mary, when this happened to Mary, this was several years ago, it was the first time it came into my mind, because I didn't know about this. And then since that time, I've been able to spot this in several people. And yes, I find that, wow, they do. And they go down and they have these tumors removed. And what's really interesting is a lot of times happened to Mary, and it's happened to my clients. you feel better the minute you wake up out of surgery. It's that influential in your health. You would think, well, how could I feel noticeably better just waking up out of surgery? But that's the way it is. So, excuse me, I just want to, okay, just read you that. Okay, so I just do want to go through this. So I'm reading to you again. What are the parathyroid glands? We talked about that. I have to clear my throat, excuse me. What is normal parathyroid gland function? The function of the parathyroid glands is to regulate blood calcium by secreting a hormone called parathyroid hormone. So I think what's really important first is to know I plan to do it this way, but calcium has so many important functions in the body. And it's so it's so important that we have these glands that are just dedicated to making sure that the blood calcium level always remains constant. And so when that doesn't happen, a lot of bad things can happen. But calcium, and again, I should have done that. That was kind of like my start out when I was thinking about this program was, this is what calcium does in the body. This is it fuels the nervous system. It's so important for, the heart. It's so important for the muscles and for all of the connectivity of the electrical system within the body. So calcium is super important. We are dead without calcium. But calcium, again, like last week, it needs to be where it needs to be. So they secrete a hormone called parathyroid hormone. So PTH, in response to blood calcium levels. If your blood calcium levels are too high because of parathyroid hormone being too high, your parathyroid hormone level on a blood test will indicate that. We use calcium to run the electrical systems of our bodies and many other functions. Okay. So hyperparathyroidism occurs when one or more of the parathyroids develops a tumor, which makes too much hormone, leading to high calcium and other bad symptoms. The tumor must be removed. And then when you go to this, you can watch the parathyroid surgery video. If you're into that kind of thing, you want to watch that. And then they have a 5-minute video animation that kind of gives you a good head start on the website. This is a great place. When I refer people to them, they rave, they tell me about how great they are. In fact, I've suspected hyperparathyroidism in a couple of people where that didn't turn out to be the case, and they're great. I just say, ask them, talk to them. They will say, it doesn't sound to us like that's what's going on, but in most cases it is. And then they connect you. And anyway, Mary went down. They have a wonderful facility, hospital of their own. And they have a couple of hotels they work with. They provide, if you're not going with somebody and you want, transportation, they take care of all of those details. It's a very, I don't say a simple surgery. I don't know that any surgery is simple, but I mean, it's simple on your end. You get knocked out and you wake up and then you go back and they check on you. You go back to your hotel and spend the night, and as far as it's happened with my others, you're just free to leave the next day. And so they make it all very user friendly, no matter where you happen to be coming from, where you are living when you go to do that. I had one woman, I know I saved it, but I don't know where I put it. But she actually showed me the picture of this really ugly, huge tumor on her parathyroid gland. And she was just a woman sitting in my office who was complaining about some of the symptoms in the symptoms list and just all of these, no energy, so fatigued, losing my hair, can't sleep, blah, 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 blah. And that ended up to be the case with her. Later in the program today, I'm going to share a really exciting, and it's on my newsletter, so you might have glanced at it, but a woman I worked with that we did sleuth that out and ended up being the case with her. So The symptoms, let's go to the symptoms. Okay, well, maybe not. I'm jumping around a lot, aren't I? Okay, hang on. Blood calcium. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, listed and discussed. We'll talk about that. You will be amazed at this small hormone tumor, what this small hormone tumor will do to you. It even increases your risk of stroke, heart disease, and cancer. And the person I'm going to talk about in my as my case study today, that was what I first started working with her for years ago, was kidney cancer. And we had no idea until years later that she had a hyperparathyroidism. And that was actually behind the whole thing. So anyway, that's just a little bit of a tease. Many doctors get confused. Blood calcium levels and parathyroid hormone levels will make the diagnosis. If you have high calcium, you almost certainly have a parathyroid tumor. Read this page and get the Calcium Pro app. You can all look at that. You can figure that out. Okay, pictures and photos of parathyroid tumors. Okay, so let's see how this might present. Right? This is the kind of thing you really want to see, like, wow, does this apply to me? Or does this just apply to my mother or my father or my sister or something like that? Someone like that, not something. Okay, now before I go through the list, I want to say this. Let's go down here. Most people with hyperparathyroidism will have hyperparathyroidism will have 5 or 6 of these symptoms or signs. Some will have lots of them. A few people will say they don't have any, but after an operation, they will often say otherwise. In general, the longer you have hyperparathyroidism, the more symptoms you will develop. Important, if you do not have calcium levels above 10.0, or this in Canada and Europe, the equivalents, then these symptoms are probably not from a parathyroid problem. And this is a simple, I had a woman just 2 weeks ago. So she's been a client for several years. We've sort of been out of touch, and she's been keeping up with her supplements and whatnot. You know how that is if you're a client of mine. Sometimes that we just kind of, you're perking along and we don't meet up or whatever. And she said, I'm not feeling well. Can we get together? And she's long distance. She's in Georgia, and just talk on the phone and see, if you can think of anything else for me. And so we did that a couple of weeks ago, and she said, yeah, my blood work, because she said, I've had some new blood work and stuff like that. So she said, my blood work has been all normal, except, she said, my blood calcium is always on the high side. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, back in, it was 10 point this, here it was 10 point that, there it was 10 point, creeping up to 11. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That's like hugely important. So I asked her, I said, do you have anything there for a PTH? Do you have any data there for that, for parathyroid hormone? And she said, oh yeah, back in whatever, it was blah, 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 it was normal. And then, oh, wait a minute. Last time it was like out of range. So creeping up. So she'd been seeing her PCP. Her PCP referred her to an endocrinologist. The endocrinologist addressed, and I'm not kidding, addressed her high blood calcium level with the suggestion, don't drink milk. So this is an endocrinologist. So you can see that this diagnosis often goes missing. The big complaint that this particular client had, and this is the one from just a couple of weeks ago, this is not the woman who had the kidney cancer. So I hope I'm not getting too confusing here. But so this is the one who said, I'm still not, and her big thing was, I'm not sleeping. I'm just not sleeping. Okay. So, by the way, she just told me this week that she's all set up with the Norman Parathyroid Center, and they are going to take care of this. So, but this was just missing. Okay, so chronic fatigue, feeling tired all the time, is the number one symptom. Of course, a lot of things can be behind that, right? So like they said down here, you might have 5 or 6 of these symptoms or signs, right? But it says here, if your calcium levels are not above like the 10 mark, then it's probably not due to this. But But look at this constellation of things. And you will know in our population today, there are a lot of people who have a combination of these types of symptoms. So we have here, okay. Chronic fatigue, feeling tired all the time, the number one symptom. General feeling of illness, feeling bad, that can be hard to describe. Lack of interest in activities that you previously enjoyed. Difficulty concentrating or focusing. Depression or anxiety. And then they have other things you can go into here and investigate, right? This person talking about chronic fatigue, depression, anxiety, and high blood calcium, warnings and advice from a psychiatrist. Those things, if you're really interested in this subject, then they have them on other things like irritability and crankiness, depression, fatigue, and hyperparathyroidism by Dr. Jim Norman, who is the head of this hospital. Okay, osteoporosis and osteopenia, bone pain, particularly in the hands, feet, arms, and legs, but can be anywhere. Insomnia, difficulty sleeping through the night, needing naps during the day, irritability, crankiness, memory loss, feeling like you might be developing dementia, gastric acid reflux, heartburn, GERD, decrease in sex drive, thinning hair, predominantly in middle-aged females on the front part of the scalp. Kidney stones, they have an entire page on that. Chronic kidney disease and kidney failure. High blood pressure, hypertension, erratic blood pressure, frequent headaches, heart palpitations, atrial fibrillation, cardiac arrhythmias, high liver function tests, develop of MGUS and abnormal blood protein levels. And I'm going to talk about that when I go to my case study of the woman who had the kidney cancer, and how this became a huge tip-off about this going on to me. So anyway, that is super important. And when I see this in people, oftentimes they have a family member. It says, go through this list with your family members. Very frequently, they will notice subtle changes. Oh, but very often you will find this problem in other family members. Like I had another whole different person and suspected it with her and her sister. She goes, oh, my sister recently had surgery for that. I had another person who developed this MGUS, which is sort of like, you can look at MGUS as sort of a forerunner of a blood, like a leukemia or a form of leukemia or something like that. And that she had that, and then come to find out one of her relatives has this hyperparathyroidism. So these can be clues, right? They can be clues for your health detective thinking. All right, now let's see here. Okay, high blood calcium and the causes of high calcium in the blood. So hyperparathyroidism, over 99% of all people who have a blood test that shows too much calcium will have a parathyroid problem. The remainder of the site is about parathyroid disease, so you have come to the right place. Okay. High calcium cause number 2. Okay, so to diagnose parathyroid disease, you need to have your blood calcium and parathyroid hormone measured. That's it. That is all that is needed to make the diagnosis of hyperparathyroidism in more than 95% of patients. You do not need x-rays or scans to make the diagnosis of hyperparathyroidism. So that's really good for you to know, because that's an easy thing for you to ask for your doctor to order. And it's an easy thing. It's just easy. Would you do a blood draw, or with your next blood draw, please, well, if you felt if you fall into this picture and you do it right away. But those would be important tests to look for. And then cancer can cause high calcium. What cancers can be associated with high calcium? Now here, kidney cancer is here. And this is where I see my client who I originally worked with for kidney cancer. And then it wasn't until after she was free of kidney cancer did we discover this whole hyperparathyroid thing. And then, okay, so multiple myeloma, again, that's like sort of like that MGUS can be like a precursor to multiple myeloma, which is one of the blood cancers. So cancer can cause hypercalcemia in two ways. So it's very, very interesting because my client had kidney cancer, right? But when her parathyroid tumor was removed, the doctor said it was a very old tumor. So it would be, I would suppose that the high blood calcium levels due to the hyperparathyroid tumor had to do with the development of the kidney cancer, not the other way around. Multiple myeloma, sarcoidosis, excess vitamin D intake. And again, that would be with without the K, as we talked about last week. And certain drugs can cause that problem. Milk alkali syndrome, Paget's disease of the bone, which is quite rare. And then, so what are the normal blood calcium levels? You're probably wondering, because maybe you've got lab work on hand or whatever, and you're just curious. So the most normal normal calcium range will be to 8.8 to 10.5, but this is not correcting for age. A value of 10.5 in a teenager is perfectly normal, but 10.5 in an adult over age 35 is too high. So you want it under 10. Teenagers and young adults can have normal calcium levels up to the mid-10s, but adults over the age of about 35 to 40 should have lower calcium levels, not going above 10. Okay, so most adults have calcium levels somewhere between 9.4 and 9.9. And that's why we like to say that adults live in the nines. If you are an adult over 40 and your calcium is over 10 on several occasions, then you very likely have a parathyroid tumor. So just be aware. This is kind of cool. Smart calcium facts. This is kind of what I wanted to do, but I didn't even see this sheet, but this, thank you. That comes in very handy. Calcium, the fifth most common element in the body, exists almost entirely as crystalline hydroxyapatite in bones and teeth. Calcium is used by nerve cells to propagate an impulse and by muscle cells to contract. Humans want extremely regulated calcium levels because our brains and entire nervous system rely on calcium, right? So calcium isn't the bad guy. Calcium is really needed, but it's got to be balanced properly. If the calcium level in our blood is too high or too low, we get symptoms in our nervous system. Okay, let's do that. Click here to read more about symptoms of high calcium. Okay, I guess they're the same as symptoms and signs of hyperparathyroidism. Well, that makes sense, but we just did that. Okay, there are three ways that calcium is present in our blood. Protein bound, attached to small diffusible anions, such as citrate, lactate, phosphate, and bicarbonate, and ionized. Doctors almost always measure just one type of calcium, serum calcium. This is the calcium that gets measured when a routine calcium level is ordered. This measures the amount of all three types of calcium present in the blood, and this is the only test that is needed almost all the time. Ionized calcium can help in the diagnosis of hyperparathyroidism. It is particularly helpful if the total calcium level is borderline on the high normal range. If your calcium is high normal, then make sure your ionized calcium is measured. Some people with primary hyperparathyroidism will have high normal total calcium levels, but high ionized calcium levels. Hypercalcemia in adults is defined as a serum calcium concentration above 10, and blah, blah, blah in Canada, Europe, and Asia. A serum calcium concentration greater than 14 requires immediate therapy. Although there are many causes of hypercalcemia, primary hyperparathyroidism is the most common cause in the general population, and cancer and non-parathyroid causes usually occur in hospitalized patients. If you're sitting in front of a computer, like I am right now, and you have high calcium, then the odds of you having hyperparathyroidism as the cause of your high calcium is about 99%. The odds of one of the other problems listed above like being the cause of your high calcium is near zero. Stop worrying and don't let your doctor do all sorts of silly tests looking for cancer. You have hyperparathyroidism until proven otherwise. It is easy to fix and must be fixed. Mary said the doctor team is just amazing. And Dr. Norman himself did her surgery, spoke with her, previously, and blah, 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 did the surgery afterwards. They were just class act. Parathyroid hormone, peptide. Oh, anyway. So anyway, you see yourself, maybe you see yourself there. Now I'm going to go back to my case study here. So this is my client who had the kidney cancer, and she was done with kidney cancer. That was over. And she's just checking in with me now. And this is an email from January 9 in 2022. I had my second bladder checkup, blood work, CT scan, and MRI, melatonin before both, and all looks fine. Oh, because I've told her to protect herself from the CT scans. My calcium level, which usually runs 10 or above, normal is 8.8 to 10.3, but we just read that that's not even true, went up to 11. I've stopped taking vitamin D3 and anything with calcium in it. Is there anything I can add or delete from my diet that'll decrease calcium? I don't feel real confident with this kidney doc who has me at stage 3 of kidney disease. Okay. Oh, see how this is going missing. I mean, I'm sure this doctor is not a doof. I'm sure this doctor treats many people very well, very effectively for probably very many things having to do with the kidneys, but totally misses hyperparathyroidism. So I replied, your calcium level makes me suspicious that you may have a parathyroid issue. I would ask your doctor to order PTH testing, parathyroid testing, along with repeating blood calcium levels a few times, just to be sure. I wouldn't even be that, I would just be like, yeah, that's probably what that is. But anyway, then later in the month, January 21st, she said, my PCP sent me a text about monoclonal protein spike in my blood work and is present in 3% of persons over age 50 who are Caucasian. She said there's a 1% chance per year of conversion to some kind of malignancy like lymphoma, leukemia, or multiple myeloma. She's suggesting a bone marrow biopsy to rule out multiple myeloma. Immunoglobulin G is 510, standard range is blah. Immunoglobulin M is 421, standard range is this. Kappa QNT free light chains is 3456, standard range is blah, 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 blah. All other components from the monoclonal protein study are within range. I can scan and send you the entire panel. Needless to say, I'm concerned. Yes, absolutely. You've come through kidney cancer. You have no more kidney cancer, but you're told that you're in 3rd stage kidney failure. And now you have the propensity to develop a blood cancer. This is very scary. And now you're supposed to have a bone marrow biopsy to find out if that's the case. So I said, I think it's the parathyroid problem. Check out the attachments. And the attachments, just stop my share for a second. The attachments are, so I went right to work, right? Because I'm already suspecting the parathyroid, and I'm wondering what it has to do with this whole potential of developing multiple myeloma. So I find serum parathyroid hormone is a new potential risk factor in multiple myeloma. And then it says here, we hypothesize that serum PTH might be associated with various clinical pathological parameters in multiple myeloma. So we investigate the implications of, which is a cancer, right? It's a blood cancer. It's very serious and considered terminal. I guess all cancer is considered terminal in modern day, whatever, whatever. I won't go into that. But anyway, in conclusion, the study showed that blood PTH, parathyroid hormone level, at multiple myeloma at diagnosis was associated with risk factors and clinical outcomes in multiple myeloma patients. And then this one, inhibition of immunoglobulin production by parathyroid hormone, implications in chronic renal failure. Renal means kidney. Okay, so here we have, and that's what she had going on in her, if you look back at her immunoglobulins were messed up. And okay, so that's how we did it. I was like, this has to be parathyroid, and it was. And yeah, so she is, she's fine. I mean, I talk with this woman all the time. She's still taking supplements. Brud, I can see that you're with us today. Brud of Indoor Organic Gardens of Poughkeepsie, who is our sulforaphane broccoli sprouts, right, expert. And this client that I'm talking about, she is a huge user of your powder. She loves it. She always buys a couple packages at a time, and she probably replaces those every month, at least. And yeah, so I saw you. I happened to think about her. But anyway, we stay in touch. She's doing great. Her health is fine. She's not dealing, she's just perking right along, taking her supplements like a lot of you are doing, and doing fine. But this is exactly what can happen. What would have happened? And I'm just saying, I'm grateful that the progression of how God, works in my life to inform me about things, so that when someone crosses my path, I can recognize this kind of thing. It happened to Mary. That was the first time I ever heard of it. Then I picked it up in other clients. And then I was able to, see. This is the hard thing in modern medicine, however, is that your average doctor it's not within the framework of their day to look for other reasons for the changes in the monoclonal antibodies or in the immunoglobulins. And so they say, this is what we normally see associated with the possible development of cancer. And yes, had the parathyroid tumor not been removed, I would definitely expect my client to eventually develop one of these blood cancers. And it was all due to this parathyroid tumor that she had no idea she had. So in my hypothesis, I mean, she would never have had the kidney cancer. She would never have had the kidney problems post kidney cancer. And she would not have been in a position to develop a blood cancer. So please realize how important this is. And it's great, right? Because it's not like, wow, I think that might be me. I have to go get a bone marrow biopsy, or I have to go, I have to ask my doctor to do like some weird scan that's, thousands of dollars that, he doesn't think is justified or anything. This is just along with your regular routine blood work, blood calcium. But again, like I said about the client I was talking about with just in the past couple of weeks, which I'm really excited to see what happens when she goes down there and gets her tumor removed, who had the insomnia. And she's like, I'm just not feeling better. I don't know, what else can we do? I'm just not feeling better. And her endocrinologist had said about her high calcium level, had just point blank said, don't drink milk. So understand that your doctor is probably, most doctors are not in tune with hyperparathyroidism and are not looking for it, and might look at a high blood calcium and not think anything of it. And so very, very important, a word to the wise. And yeah. Now we've got a little bit of time left. We've got about 10 minutes. And I thought that this would be kind of fun to go into. I didn't put it in my newsletter, but I'm going to go back here. The Weston A. Price Foundation, again, I've spoken about many times. So let me share my screen. This is going to go back to This is like truly is like a classroom, isn't it? Right? Because class, do you remember? And what did we talk about? And we talked about MTHFR several weeks ago, and I already talked about that because of talking about Debbie having read the book Dirty Genes and all that. So I'm refreshing your memory. But I found, just happened to stumble on this earlier, and it was actually just today that I did. Earlier this morning. You can see what I like to do in my free time. So this is a great piece on balance. It's really all about balance. So, okay, I apologize for doing this to you, but you've been with me, so you'll get this. So we've talked about methionine. Think sulfur. Okay, think MSM. So I talk about that all the time. And then we talk about creating homocysteine. Remember the whole methylation cycle, right? So you have to have sulfur, and then sulfur is broken down into cysteine and methionine, which now in the presence of the B vitamins that you need and whatnot, you create homocysteine, but then you break it down with the B vitamins and the glycine. Okay. All right. So, and then the B vitamins and the glycine, the choline is part of the B complex, proper methylation, you make glutathione. Okay. I always have to find a way, don't I? Glutathione. It didn't come into the hyperparathyroid topic of conversation at all. So I had to come over here before I close. Proper methylation and glutathione, proper cellular equals proper cellular communication, antioxidant defense, detoxification. So these things are super important. And it shows, what I love about this article is that it shows a balanced diet. Really, if we could have a balanced diet, but we have to strive for a balanced diet. And then we have to say, am I really getting all these nutrients in this diet and supplement them? I would not, but it shows how a balanced diet, as our creator put in process, is to fuel our bodies in the proper way and to take care of preventing many health problems and ensuring optimal health. So let's just run through this a little bit. Successful traditional diets provide many nutrients that cooperate with one another to produce excellent health. And again, you've got that calcium, magnesium, vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin K, hormones, DHEA, working all together in balance. And a lot of people today do not pay attention to their diet and are not and are just being suffocated with health problems because of that. Methionine from muscle meat. Okay, so protein contributes to cell growth and repair, cellular communication, antioxidant defense, and detoxification. In order to fulfill these functions, however, methionine must be balanced with B vitamins, choline, and glycine from organ meats, egg yolks, legumes, leafy greens, skin, and bones. Okay, so there's your whole diet. So these diets that are all this or all that, or we're going to leave this part out, not smart. And, just think about vegetarianism or being a vegan. Sounds so trendy and so helpful because you got all those vegetables. Although I think a lot of vegetarians, it's not so much about the vegetables as it is about the no meat. But anyway, all of these things together. I'm always drawing. Oh, I don't have it up there. Otherwise, I would have taken my camera and maybe just showed you. But I usually have my methylation diagram up there because I'm always drawing it for my clients when they're in here with me, when they're trapped in my office and can't get away from me. I'm like, now let me tell you about this. So anyway, so here you've got the methionine from your muscle meat, right? Which is the stuff that we eat, our lean meats, contribute to cell growth and repair, blah, 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 blah. However, methionine must be balanced. Organ meats, so your liver, egg yolks, legumes, your beans and stuff, leafy greens, skin, and bones. Vitamins A, D, and K, again, cooperate to protect our soft tissues from calcification, to nourish our bones and teeth, and to provide children with adequate growth. We obtain these nutrients together by consuming organ meats, cod liver oil, fatty fish, grass-fed animal fats, green and orange vegetables, and fermented plant foods. Boom. This is why I love Weston A. Price. Again, he was a dentist who back in the day traveled the world and went to these native cultures and observed how when they adopted a Western diet, it took like no time at all, a generation to destroy their beautiful bone structure, and the crowding of the teeth would come in because they were influenced by, our modern ways of this is a better way to eat. We'll send you some white bread as part of our donation to your food supply. How's that? Here you go. Here's some, Wonder bread. Magnesium is required for every process in the body. Singing my song here. Among its many interactions, magnesium is required for proper calcium metabolism. Magnesium is abundant in many plant foods and some seafood, but there is little magnesium in meat and almost none in refined sugar and refined grains. Consuming a balanced diet devoid of refined sugar and refined grains is the best way to obtain adequate magnesium. But of course, it just is really impossible because of soil quality as well. Magnesium is a real tough one. You really got to supplement that one. But in the Garden of Eden, right? If this was the Garden of Eden, they weren't eating meat yet. So let's say in the post Garden of Eden, post the fall, but in the wild, like without the supermarket, and eating a variety of things. This is what resonates with us the way we are created best. Radiant and vibrant health. So synergy and context with dietary nutrients. Successful traditional diets provided a rich array of nutrients that cooperated with one another to produce vibrant health. As modern diets have shifted towards nutrient-poor foods fortified with the favored nutrients du jour, we have gazed askance at the direct degeneration that has resulted and embarked on a series of searches for the dietary villains that we imagine lurking in the shadows. We have blamed heart disease on cholesterol, mortality on meat, osteoporosis on vitamin A, and diabetes on fat. It has eluded us that we are asking all the wrong questions. Biology is not a war between good molecules and evil molecules, nor is it a war between wholesome natural foods like vegetables and poisonous natural foods like meat. Biology is a system wherein many parts work together in synergy to produce a context within which each part benefits the whole. Several examples of this type of synergy follows. Some of you are going to want to see this page. So all you have to do is just jot down Beyond Good and Evil and go to the westonaprice.org. And you'll easily find that. Because isn't this interesting? And okay, so again, my diagram here, you've got methionine, you've got sulfur at the top, and then you've got the B vitamins. I'll always draw on the side. Sulfur and the methionine, cysteine, and then the B vitamins along the side, folate, B12, B2, B6, those things. And then going down to the homocysteine and then glycine and all of that. So methionine is an amino acid that we obtain from most dietary proteins, but it's especially abundant in animal proteins. As shown in figure 2, folate and B12, and to a lesser extent, vitamin B6, niacin, and riboflavin B2 assist methionine in carrying out one of its major cellular functions, the addition of a single carbon atom together with a small assortment of hydrogen atoms to a wide variety of molecules, a process known as methylation. That's what methylation is. And so you have to have that sulfur to start, right? So I take my MSM powder, and then I make sure I'm getting my B vitamins, right? Because now you've got the B vitamins along with the methionine from the sulfur is constructing this. And I think I have someone in my classroom here who's brand new, and we just found out that MTHFR applies to you. No names there, but put this in your cap because we'll be talking about this. So methylation is important for the synthesis of many cellular components and for the regulation of gene expression. As a result, it is critical for the maintenance and repair of existing tissue, the building up of new tissue, and cellular communication. Methylation is especially important for the passing along of epigenetic information. Oh, there we get, I get to say that. Information from parent cells to their daughter cells as they multiply. Liver is rich in all of the B vitamins important to this process. Muscle meats provide smaller amounts of most of them, but are relatively poor in folate. Folate, MTHFR, is methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, which is the gene that codes for folate metabolism. This one small nutrient, we might call it small, is so big. Folate is found primarily in liver and legumes, with modest amounts in egg yolks and some seeds, seafood, and leafy greens. When any of these vitamins is missing, methionine fails to contribute properly to methylation and instead generates homocysteine, a potentially toxic byproduct that may contribute to cardiovascular disease. Right. So my dad, when he was a compound pharmacist, my late father made a product called Losis, which was low homocysteine, and it was folate, B12, and B6, because the methionine needs that we're getting in our diet needs to have those vitamins to break the homocysteine down. In support of the relevance of these pathways to human nutrition, a randomized placebo-controlled trial showed that 3 months of combined supplementation with folic acid and vitamin B12 lowered homocysteine concentrations. In the same study, a single large dose of methionine temporarily increased homocysteine concentrations, which homocysteine, when it remains high, can cause problems such as excessive blood clotting, while supplementation with B vitamins protected against this effect. This study demonstrates the critical need for balance between methionine and the B vitamins, and suggests that many people may not be getting enough folate or enough B12 to properly handle the methionine they are obtaining from muscle meats. Now, those of you who work with me, I'll say, I don't know if you have an MTHFR defect. I don't know if I don't know, unless you have we have your genetic data. But I just assume everybody does. You will see in the supplement recommendations I put for everybody, you will find active folate, B12, B6, B2. You will find those things, those nutrients, right? Because I know that you need them and that everybody does. And so we don't need to know necessarily. It's always interesting to see, like it was for me and for my daughter, if we have these problems, but we all need them. And isn't it just remarkable how our food supply, if we eat a balanced and whole food diet, how well it supports this very important process of methylation. And now it says here, once our needs for methylation are met, I'm at a little bit after hour here, but that's okay. If you have to go, you can, but I'm just gonna be a few more minutes. We use vitamin B6 and glycine to convert any additional methionine in our diet to glutathione, which is a master antioxidant and detoxifier of the cell, as well as the key regulator of protein function. So this is huge. So we're using that. And I just talked about glycine a few weeks ago. Glycine was rather new to me, and now I don't miss taking glycine because I see its role in this whole methylation process. And very important for breaking down methionine. But here we go. This is why we want to make sure we have adequate folate, B12, B6, not just, am I getting this from my diet? Because the extra that we have is now working to increase our glutathione, which is really the grand result of a proper methylation cycle. A healthy methylation cycle, we raise glutathione. That's kind of like the slam dunk of the whole thing, because glutathione is a miracle molecule. And every degenerative disease condition has an association with low glutathione. I feel it's very safe to say. And optimal health is not achieved without optimal levels of glutathione. Okay, so anyway, you can go on and explore that. Talks about bone meal, getting glycine. What's really rich in glycine is bone broths. They talk a lot here about the different broths and things like that. Vitamin E, A, D, and K2. Oh my goodness, I would just love to. I should have done, well, you could do another program on this, but I'll stop my share for now. You can look that up yourself. I'd love to go into that more. And I would say this. Okay. Susan says, yes. And my attendee there, I won't say your name, but this did, well, you did just say it. You entered the chat. So yes, that is you. I was talking about, we just found out that you are MTHFR. And yeah, that's going to be really fun when we sit down. I get to talk more about it, but take this as a big part of that discussion. And we are already addressing it. So that's really cool. And then Susan is saying, remember last week, Susan was saying she had shingles. She said she thinks the MSM eye drops helped ward off eye issues during a shingles outbreak because her eye was feeling odd. That makes sense. That does make sense. And I'm glad. That's really good. Next week, I am not going to be here, but I will be the following week. And then I have no plans to be absent for a while, but I will not be here next week. I probably will get out something as a newsletter by that time. So, because I always have so many things I want to say, don't I? And I always love talking with you. So I guess we'll call it quits for now. I just say thank you to everyone. Thanks for being with me. I really so much enjoy this hour every week. I look forward to it. I hope you do too. And yeah, be well. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.